I'm sure all of you are familiar with the saying, it's not about where you start, but about where you finish. That's true in many areas, especially basketball. The two Tennessee teams that really overperformed in the tournament and took every ounce of talent they possessed had poor to mediocre regular seasons. Don't get me wrong, my favorite team in Tennessee basketball history was the Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, Jordan Bone, Jordan Bowden team, Lamonte Turner. However, based upon that team's talent, based upon that team's ceiling, they underperformed in March. That team peaked in December and January when they beat number one at the time, Gonzaga, and ended up winning like 16 or 17 games in a row and being ranked number one. It seems like once they got to the tournament and as the year grew longer, they started to wear down and they didn't play as well. They almost lost to Colgate, a toothpaste manufacturer, in the first round. They almost lost to Iowa with a bunch of white boys. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that team. But you can't tell me a team that was ranked number one for over a month and had multiple NBA draft picks shouldn't have at least made the Elite Eight at the very minimum. That team, in my opinion, should have made the Final Four. The two teams I'm referring to is the 2009-2010 team, which made the Elite Eight and came within one shot of beating Michigan State and making the Final Four. That team, which had Wayne Chisholm, J.P. Prince, Brian Williams, and others, finished 11-5 in the SEC and third in the SEC. I remember during that season, everybody was complaining and bitching about how bad that team looked. It's like once the tournament started, a light clicked on, and they ended up performing very well. They did really good in the SEC tournament as well. They made the SEC championship game and lost it against Mississippi State. But it's like once March hit, that team peaked. The other team was the 2013-2014 Sweet 16 team, which finished fourth in the East at 11-7. You might say, how are you going to say that team overperformed while the other team underperformed? Well, this team had Jordan McRae, Gerard Mayman, Jarnell Stokes. It performed the best under its capabilities. It was not a perennial top 5 team all year. They were actually projected to lose in the first or second round. Of course, Mercer had a big hand in that, beating Duke. Tennessee faced Mercer in the second round instead of Duke. They came within 1 point of defeating Michigan and making the Elite Eight. The point I'm making is this team at the beginning of the season did not perform up to its capabilities. There were spurts like against Arizona where they looked like a Sweet 16 to Elite Eight, possibly Final Four team. However, there were multiple games like Texas Tech, Texas, and others where they, and especially Villanova, where they completely wet the bed. As of late, it looks like Tennessee is hitting its stride. Triple J is hot. Vescovi is doing his thing. Ziegler is a baller. Love that kid. Quietly, Kennedy Chandler had a double-double in Saturday's game against South Carolina. The way this team is hitting shots is days and nights different than they were at the beginning of the season. I knew eventually this team would start hitting shots. Against Texas A&M and South Carolina, they did that. The schedule was also extremely top-heavy. Something about Rick Barnes is he always schedules good out-of-conference opponents. You had Texas, Texas Tech, Villanova, and Arizona. Those were tough out-of-conference teams. The rest of the schedule is favorable in almost every game. Currently, Tennessee is 4th in the SEC, under Auburn, Kentucky, and Arkansas, who is also peaking at the right time. Their record is currently 16-6. They are 7-3 in the SEC. The remaining schedule. This is my prediction. Wednesday, they play at Mississippi State. I think Tennessee is going to win that game. Next, they play Vanderbilt at home on Saturday. I think they beat Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt is better than their record indicates. Vanderbilt beat LSU. I knew eventually Vanderbilt was going to win one of those games. Vanderbilt plays tough. They are a lot better than people think. I think Tennessee wins by 7 or 8. Pull away at the end. Then they play Kentucky. Hate to say it, but as much as I hate Kentucky, they are a Final Four team this year, I think. A possible national title contender. Their depth. Tshiebwe's just too good. I don't see anybody on this roster that can contend with him inside. Euros is limited offensively. I love the kid, but he's very limited. Fulkerson is not tall enough. Nkamhoua could possibly give him some trouble. But it depends because Nkamhoua's hurt. We don't know when he's coming back. He could miss a couple weeks. I got Kentucky winning. Then they're at Arkansas. Arkansas right now is hot. Arkansas and Tennessee are probably, other than Auburn and Kentucky, the best teams in the league. LSU and Alabama are in free fall right now. They are totally collapsing, despite early season success. I think Tennessee loses that game. After that, they're at Missouri. I think Tennessee wins that game. Next, they play Auburn. I think Tennessee loses to Bruce Pearl again. After that, they're at Georgia. I think they win that game. And then their season finale is Arkansas. I think they win that game, which would give them a record of 21-9, 12-6 in the SEC. They finish around 3rd or 4th in the league. They get a first round bye in the SEC tournament. The top 4 teams get a bye. And then when the tournament hits, they'll end up being a 5th or 4th seed. And they will get favorable matchups. Top to bottom, the SEC, I think, is the best league. You have Auburn and Kentucky at the top, who are going to probably make the Final Four. I hate bowl teams. I'm not a fan of Bruce Pearl, and I can't stand Kentucky. And then in the middle, you have Arkansas and Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, who I think on any given day could beat anybody. I mean, Alabama did beat Gonzaga. They did beat Baylor, and they did beat Houston, who are all going to be tournament teams. But even at the bottom of the league, Vanderbilt plays everybody close. I mean, they didn't lose to Kentucky by 20 points. The committee will see that, and they will see that Tennessee currently is undefeated at home. They have no bad losses, and they have a win against Arizona, who I think is also a Final Four team. But that's all I got to say about that. I'm excited for the rest of the season. Hopefully, Tennessee can upset either Kentucky or Auburn. Go Vols.